Welcome, friends. Namaste from London, and sincere apologies for missing to be in person today, although I would have loved to do that. The title of this presentation says it all, because that is the very reason what led 17 media organizations and networks to come together in Asia and Africa to collectively find answers for this question: complexity of communicating AMR and One Health. It was among the core drivers why we all founded Global AMR Media Alliance, GAMA. This slide represents the complexity not only in terms of understanding and reporting on AMR and One Health, but also how we as media organizations are so ill prepared. When media spaces like health, feature page of newspaper or magazine or portal will be limited to human health, how can the story be relatable for animal health and livestock, food and agriculture, or environment? Health per se has less priority within media agencies. First communication challenge when we reach out to media and communicators is risk perception. Do we perceive ourselves at risk of AMR? All of us are at risk of AMR. Though those who are facing inequalities and injustices and are in low and middle income countries are at way more heightened risk. But a simple injury can expose any one of us to drug resistant infections. Just to refresh and remind myself and request you all to do the same. Look inwards. Think how close AMR is to our lives. Have you or anyone you know of ever self treated or self medicated? Got treated by a doctor or healthcare worker or others without diagnosis? Ever got infected with an infectious disease like common cold? Ever faced wrong diagnosis or misdiagnosis? Faced a situation when medicines given by the doctor or pharmacist or your family did not work to cure or heal you? Ever treated your pet or livestock animal or plant without any confirmatory diagnosis? We need to learn few things from feminist movements as well as HIV movement when it comes to media and communications. Whether it is feminist movements or HIV activism, despite all odds, affected peoples have led from the front in truly shaping the responses. Compare this with most other health responses. You will see the difference. When I look back to the first time we reported on HIV or TB in mid 1990s, since then HIV community activism has not only forced a foundational shift from medicalized and criminalized HIV or HIV denialism towards person-centered HIV responses, as well as pushed for person-centered HIV science communications and media engagement. Person centered communication can be science based, and rather should be science based, grounded in rights and equity and justice. Not just right to participate, but also the right to represent, and process of representing a community are hard fought gains. This was game changing when it came to discourses and conversations at policy level tables and round tables, conferences and meetings at all levels. People with HIV were scientists too. Community people were also highly health and treatment and HIV science literate and continue to be so. It was HIV community that ran HIV science news portals like AIDSmap in the UK, of which we at CNS were also a part for almost a decade. Tiered messaging works. For example, messages for general population are tailored for HIV prevention and getting oneself tested, risky behaviors, etc. HIV test, pre-test counseling and post-test counseling messages are geared not only towards re-emphasizing prevention but also health and treatment literacy and community support for adherence and care and support. Movement means moving forward towards the goal of preventing AMR and not movement of a rocking chair. We can do better when it comes to communicating AMR and One Health. Is media engagement around AMR consistent year round? What about HIV or gender? Today, we can say it is normalized for media and communicators to treat HIV or TB survivors with respect and dignity and give them equitable space, just like any other scientific or medical expert, not a tokenistic space. We need to emphasize and re emphasize with media and communicators to do the same with AMR and One Health. This will help school us all on rights based terminologies that do not shift blame on people, adherence versus compliance, demedicalizing the issue. This does not mean at all to move away from medicine. Rather, we are all here to ensure we remain rooted in medicine, science, and evidence. But it means that we communicate AMR in a language rooted in science, evidence, equity, rights, and justice. Simpler person centered messaging that is better understood by everyone. In 2015, UNAIDS came up with the brilliant 90-90-90 target. That is, by 2020, 90% people must know their HIV status, 90% of those who know their status must be on life saving ART, and 90% of those on treatment must be virally suppressed. This ensured people with HIV live healthy and normal lives. In other words, no one should be at risk of HIV drug resistance due to misuse or overuse of medicines, or be denied right and timely diagnosis, right treatment, care, and support. Tiered and simplified HIV communications rooted in science were so important. Viral load test is a norm now in low and middle income countries, in resource limited settings as well. Media reports will also show gaps, and rightly so, and call for bridging them at the earliest. Then came 95, 95, 95, which further upped the goal for 2025 and accelerated this drive. Almost 2 dozen countries today, like Botswana, Eswatini, Kenya, Malawi, Rwanda, Zambia, Zimbabwe, already have met that goal of 95, 95, 95. Many more are very close to achieving the targets, 90s or 80s or late 70s, like Cambodia, Nepal, India, Thailand. HIV networks, national aid programs, HIV communications, media narratives fully supported the campaign. The whole 95 95 95 approach ensured we averted a pandemic of HIV drug resistance and community and media messaging wise. It was clear that people with HIV stay healthy, infection spread stops, and stigma and discrimination ends. For governments, it was crystal clear they need to deliver on 95, 95, 95 or even 100, 100, 100 to ensure that every PLHIV has U equals U as a reality, virally suppressed, or TND, target not detected, lives healthy and chain of infection spread breaks. Also, it was communities of people living with HIV that further simplified this message to U equals U, undetectable equals untransmittable. HIV community representative and leader Bruce Richmond of HIV Prevention Access Coalition was the one who coined the phrase U equals U back then. When COVID lockdown was clamped in India in March 2020, it was PLHIV networks that had reached out to Ministry of Health and Family Welfare of India 10 days before the lockdown, asking to have a backup plan in place to ensure uninterrupted supply of medicines. When we, the people, knew 4 hours before lockdown got clamped, the Ministry of Health had a draft plan with PLHIV networks. Braving police and other problems in initial days after lockdown, community people delivered ARVs from government centers to doorsteps of thousands of PLHIVs in India. See the media narrative amidst a difficult time for perhaps everyone. Each time they helped ensure uninterrupted supply of medicines, they helped prevented HIV drug resistance. Also, let us take a moment to think that lack of community leadership in other siloed health responses, which was so catastrophic when it comes to health for all or AMR. I shudder to think about TB, for example. Even TB diagnostics like RT-PCR was deployed 100% for COVID-19. TB community-led advocacy and communications as well as media narrative is having its own journey. A lot of it is powered or influenced by HIV movement. This directly influences TB reporting. TB media reporting needs to be grounded in rights, equity, and justice, way more than is currently happening. Please give me a moment. We believe status quo on drug resistant TB is unacceptable. Full stop. We have had enough number of years to make a difference. Is 26 years not enough to end TB drug resistance? In the year 2000, when data was poor quality and lab infrastructure was weak, upper end estimates of multi drug resistant tuberculosis were around 440,000 MDR TB cases globally. In 2010, this figure was 440,000 MDR TB cases globally again. In 2023, as per the WHO Global TB report, estimates hover around 400,000 DRTB cases globally. If you go through the latest WHO Global TB report 2025, released a week ago, estimates are still almost the same. 26 years and still almost the same estimates? Stop TB Partnerships Deputy Director Dr. Sahu said 2 months back that DRTB estimates are underestimates because they do not include isoniazid drug resistance, for example, over 100,000 cases per year, and cited few more such missing examples. Moreover, data shows that bedaquiline resistance is also emerging. Bedaquiline is one of the only few new TB antibiotics in the past several decades. Failure to do basics of TB program causes 100% of TB drug resistance man-made epidemic. Every drug-resistant TB case is a grim reminder that we could have done better on IPC or on right and timely diagnosis or right treatment, care and support. TB communications, policy and advocacy and media reporting must monitor that local programs are geared to find all TB early and accurately. Nothing short of this is acceptable because this is the entry gateway to TB care pathway and also to prevent AMR. This of course means we need to find all drug resistant TB too and then treat all TB, including all drug resistant TB. Right treatment with medicines that work on a person without any delay, with full care and support to ensure treatment completion and cure. And then prevent all TB. TB treatment is prevention, food security, TB preventive therapy, tobacco and alcohol control, NCDs prevention and control, HIV U equal to U, IPC, and all other ways that reduce TB risk are also TB prevention. And very often, these are also ways to prevent TB related AMR. Please do not get me wrong. I value the historic progress made in addressing drug-resistant TB in the past decade or two. For example, historically, we never ever had so many upfront molecular test diagnostics, 54% in 2024. We never ever had all oral shorter regimens for DRTB in public programs in high TB burden countries. But despite this, we do not see public health and social justice impact. When we look at data, the response we need to make TB history is lacking. DRTB must become history before we make TB history. Please connect the dots when we speak about AMR. This becomes even more important when we do media engagement, not just human health journalists, but we also need to reach out to those covering animal health, livestock, food and agriculture, and environment or climate. Learning from other issues, I would like to share what has helped us over the past years in improving our own understanding on AMR as well as cross-cutting health and development issues and improve our reporting. Ongoing interface between media and a range of AMR stakeholders such as survivors, change makers, scientists, medical experts, food and agriculture experts, and practitioners, environment or climate experts among others, help a lot. Also, such interfaces need to keep happening at all levels. subnational or local, national, regional, and global. As communicators who want to make a difference, we need to make more efforts to demedicalize, demystify, and simplify AMR communications by, in, and through media. Again, demedicalize does not imply moving away from medicine. Rather, we are trying to save the gains made in modern medicine. We want communications to be 100% rooted in science, evidence, and human rights, but also simple enough and tailored for targeted audience to understand, act, and become AMR advocates and champions themselves. Do we have AMR prevention champions? Why not? Same goes for engaging survivors. They need to be central to AMR communications. For example, are editors giving AMR important news placement in newspapers or prime airtime? Was AMR trending in global news around war? One way to do so could be if we connect AMR with issues that impact people in daily lives and help stop misuse and overuse of medicines in all sectors. Climate change is no longer a standalone issue. It has connected to so many issues now and people's understanding too. More people understand now that not polluting environment in our day-to-day lives helps us do our own two bits when it comes to climate change. And urgent need for larger transformative changes are required to address it. Let's do with other threats to health and food security like AMR too. Is AMR newsy enough? Enough news hooks all the year round? The answer is yes. Perhaps every day, if we look beyond and across media roles and media beats or pages. See, do we not communicate, advocate on a range of issues around these days? These are missed opportunities when it comes to AMR. Various forms of media help to shape public opinion, narratives, and discourse that affect public behavior, knowledge, attitude, and practice. Media also help to dispel myths and misconceptions, combat misinformation, and promote evidence and science based information. Media were therefore identified as one of the top four priorities during two global consultations for raising awareness about AMR organized in 2022 by the quadripartite organizations, that is the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations FAO, the United Nations Environment Program UNEP, the World Health Organization WHO, and the World Organization for Animal Health WOA. One of the outcomes is here: AMR Toolkit for Media Engagement. We are proud that we could write it at CNS. This is now available for free in 5 languages so far: English, Spanish, French, Chinese, and Russian. Please be welcome to refer to it and use it. And then join the Global AMR Media Alliance. Thank you.